Khosho Medin, bienvenidos, welcome. I'm Joseph Zogi, and my room is a mess. It normally doesn't show in my videos because I'm very careful to have my camera pointed to a nice little wall behind me. But trust me, I've had some troubles with this room being very cluttered. And I've tried to, clean it up over the years, but those efforts have been a bit sporadic. This time, I'm really trying to commit to sprucing up this room and making it a bit more livable and stylish. I'm going to tell you about that. First, I'm going to tell you about one of those older sporadic efforts. Oh, this box. For years, I've been using this box as a pen and pencil holder. I'm not really sure what originally came in it. I think maybe a mug. But the style was Thomas Kincaid. No offense to you Thomas Kincaid fans, but it's really not my style. So I decided to change it. For one thing, I took it out and I painted it black. Just like Aurelio Voltaire. Although I didn't use any, fancy spray paint or unfancy spray paint. Is there such a thing as fancy spray paint? Regardless, I just got my acrylic paints and brushed it on. But, nice black cardboard, as nice as that looked, was a bit too simple for me. I wanted to spruce it up a bit. And for inspiration, I looked to Persia. Seriously, over the years, my relatives in Iran have sent me a variety of beautiful gifts festooned with a type of wooden inlay called khatam kar, or just khatam. As you can see, it features small triangular tiles arranged in elaborate, wonderful patterns. The tiles are usually wood, but some of them are metal and some of them are bone. I know you goths would really be into that. I'm not actually sure if any of the khatam items in my house have any bone, or if so, whether they're made from cow or camel. Regardless, it looks pretty good, and I thought it would make a good look for my little box. So, I got out some sticker paper, and I drew up a grid. That's right, I drew right on the grid. I got out some sticker paper, and I drew up a grid. That's right, I drew right on the paper with a ruler and a protractor. I made a grid of equilateral triangles, and I filled in those triangles with markers, including some metallic markers, give it a nice bit of silver. And I ended up drawing 4 different big hexagons with different patterns. And it was after that, it was simply a matter of cutting them out, peeling off the backing, and sticking them on a box. I think the result is pretty snazzy. Now, more recently, I figured one of the easiest solutions to this clutter is already right here in my room. I actually have a very large cabinet space right above my closet. The problem was one of the handles was gone. Actually, it had been loose for a long time, but eventually it just came out. I think the screw was too thin for the hole or something like that. Regardless, I used that as an opportunity to get a new set of handles. So I went over to Home Depot, picked up a couple black handles. I It could have been more ornate, but I wanted more or less flat surface that I could customize myself. To that end, I purchased a little silver paint and just painted right on the handles. And the result, I think, is a pretty nice addition to my room. Well, after doing that, I turned my attention to my light switch. You see, some years ago, I got a metal light switch plate to replace the old beige plastic one I had. When moving into this house, all the light switch plates were beige. In fact, growing up, I was surrounded by beige. I don't know exactly when it happened, but at some point, interior decor in the United States became all about beige. Houses had beige everywhere. The lighting fixtures, the door handles, the telephones. It was all some kind of beige or yellow for variety. Metal items, of course, were some kind of brass or otherwise yellowish color. That was basically all the color range you could get. I think when I was a kid, I even had a beige blanket. You know, popular culture pictures the 80s as a very colorful decade. But for many of us, especially those who grew up in low income housing, it was the era of beige. Anyway, some time ago, I decided to replace my little plastic beige light switch plate with one made of black metal. And, that looked pretty darn good. But after I put those new handles on my cabinet, I figured I should also give my plate a touch of silver. Now, the design that I put on my handles was pretty spontaneous. I pretty much came up with it while I was painting the handles. But I wanted to be a bit more deliberate with the light switch plate. So I sketched up a couple designs. And I asked my friends on Facebook which one they preferred. After a winner was chosen, I then made a stencil. Actually, this wasn't the first stencil I made. I'll tell you about that. First, I drew the outline of the light switch plate, or at least the part that rose up from the wall. And then I drew really a quarter of the design, cut out the paper, folded it into quarters, and then cut out the shapes with an X-Acto knife. It was pretty slow going. Sharp as the X-Acto knife is, I was still cutting through 4 layers of paper. But eventually I had my stencil, laid it onto the license plate, and painted. But, well, I was sloppy. I just slathered on that paint really thick. Then I let it dry. I wanted to make sure there was nice, thick, visible layers of silver paint on the plate, so I painted on another layer, let it dry, painted on another layer, leaving the stencil on the plate the whole time. So a lot of the paint on the stencil was still connected to the paint on the plate when it dried. Can you see where I'm going with this? Yes. When I pulled the stencil off the plate, it took a lot of paint with it. Oh, it was a disaster. So I scraped it off and started all over again. You know, it didn't occur to me until later that I might have been able to save the design using the paint that was still on the plate, but I'd lost the stencil. I need to keep better track of my stuff. See, another stencil wouldn't be exactly the same. It's not like I had copied exactly from my sketch. It was just a sketch after all. I really made the stencil pretty much by hand. Any other stencil um, wouldn't be exactly the same as that first one. So it was just as well that I got rid of the paint, started all over again. This time I tried to be more careful. I went more slowly, but still I ended up getting some paint under the stencil, and some did dry, connected to the stencil and came off when I pulled off the stencil. It was a mess. Eventually I took my cousin's advice and used a pencil to draw the outlines of the shapes on the plate and then painted in those outlines by hand. The result may not be quite as precise as I wanted, but I think it looks pretty darn good. And honestly, at this point, I've already done so much. I'm tired. I need to move on to other things. Maybe I will revisit this project in the future, but for now, I have other fish to fry. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I can make more videos and, in particular, make my living space a bit more livable. And I hope you enjoy my journey. Khodafez, adios, and goodbye.